Despite the dystopian context in which it is usually discussed, surveillance plays a key role in keeping our society safe. It is often used to monitor for shoplifting and plays a key role in solving other crimes. Given the extensive list of pros and cons for surveillance and its place in a digital world, it is important to approach this topic with a balanced perspective. Today, I will be talking to you about surveillance and its role in Australia, particularly when solving crimes and other emergency responses. I'm sure that everyone is aware of the pandemic which we are currently in the midst of. Well, if you're Australian, you're likely familiar with contact tracing and the role that it has played in trying to keep the Delta spread under control. On the 22nd of June, when New South Wales was starting its second wave, Dr. Kerry Chant, New South Wales' Chief Health Officer, stated that they were able to locate a point of transmission between two positive cases with the use of CCTV. This wasn't a one-off either. On the 26th of May, the MCC put out a statement saying that further reviews of CCTV footage are being undertaken to determine if the advice to test and isolate will be extended beyond these areas. These two examples show that CCTV has a role for good, particularly when trying to handle a global pandemic. In 2006, Helene Wells and Paul Wilson of Bondi University, along with Tony Allard of Griffith University, conducted a study trying to understand the relationship between criminal activity and CCTV in Australia. The study focused on two Gold Coast suburbs, Surfers Paradise and Broadbeach. In Surfers Paradise, they found there to be a correlation between the introduction of CCTV technology and an overall rise in total offences against property during nighttime hours, with the notable peak coming between midnight and 5:59 a.m. However, there was also a notable decline in total offences against property through the hours 6 a.m. to 5:59 p.m. All other offences followed an inverse pattern. Broadbeach showed a decrease in offences against property during daylight hours, but interestingly, it showed a rise in theft and other property damages during those same hours. Clearly, the introduction of CCTV into those areas has had some positive and some negative impacts, which is why it is important to look at the introduction of CCTV, but more broadly surveillance, with a balanced perspective. Progress towards a safe society won't always show immediate results, and good things take time. But what happens when a new law is quietly pushed through Parliament? At the end of August 2021, the Australian federal government quietly pushed through a law within 24 hours, effectively giving the police the ability to gather information on you from your online profiles or seize those same profiles. In their revised explanatory documentation, the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia claimed that on the dark web, criminals carry out their activities with a lower risk of identification and apprehension. They also went on to state that just as online criminals are constantly changing their operations and reacting to new environments, the law must adapt in order to give law enforcement agencies effective powers of response. The specific powers introduced by this bill are: the AFP and ACIC are now able to modify, add, delete or copy data through data disruption warrants. Network activity warrants, which allow agencies to collect intel on serious online criminal activity from criminal organisations. Account takeover warrants, which allow the AFP and ACIC to take control of a person's online account for the purposes of gathering evidence to further a criminal investigation. This specific amendment to the law makes it so that law enforcement agencies no longer need a person's consent to go through their online media profiles, as per page 6 of the revised documentation. While each of these powers seems scary upon first glance, each of these powers include clauses which don't allow law enforcement agencies to conduct these activities without a warrant. This new law just reinforces the fact that when dealing with surveillance, 99% of the time you've got nothing to worry about. But what about the other 1% of the time? There is currently an ongoing defamation lawsuit in which New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro is suing digital personality Friendly Geordies, also known as Jordan Shanks, and his producer Christo Lancaster for stalking and other alleged crimes. With John Barilaro's close affiliation to law enforcement units, under these new laws, what is to stop them fabricating a warrant and planting evidence on Christo or Jordan's accounts in order to achieve a conviction? The Australian government and its associates have long held belief that their digital media surveillance laws were not up to scratch, notably in 2004, with the then Commonwealth Attorney General Philip Ruddock MP stating existing surveillance laws were not up to the job of 21st century policing. Despite the strides which the Australian federal government is taking with regards to its implementation of digital surveillance laws and how those laws are being integrated into emergency services and surveillance and crime stopping, many still hold concerns. In a 2020 publication, McGarrity and Hardy stated that Australia has some of the most extraordinary legal powers to combat terrorism and lacks national protection for human rights. This takes me back to my initial statement. Is all digital surveillance bad, or is there some good to it? Well, given the context in which I have discussed it, which is its use in law enforcement and emergency services, it is easy to see that there is still some good to it. But with the laws recently introduced, there is also scope for bad things to come from it, which is why with surveillance, as all other serious matters, it is appropriate to approach it from a balanced perspective and best formulate your own opinion.